Hello and welcome to the Replimat, a regular Star Trek Deep Space Nine podcast, chatcast, in which a seasoned fan, with his head in his hands, introduce yourself.
Oh, sorry, me, Andy
Yes,
Amaranth.
And me, a relative noob, Teal Tim, or Tim Teal. Which is it?
Whichever you want.
Whichever I want. Okay.
Are we going to start again?
No, we're not starting again. We'll never get there.
Okay.
In which the two of us go through Star Trek Deep Space Nine, episode by episode, week after week, in chronological order, and tell you all about it at home, viewer. So, this week we have a special guest, and we shall move on to him very shortly. But the focus of this week's episode is Season 2, Episode 9, Second Sight, directed by Alexander Singer, story by Mark Gerard O'Connell, teleplay by Mark Gerard O'Connell, Ira Stephen Bear, and Robert Hewitt Wolfe. There's too many names involved in that. It was originally broadcast on the 22nd of November 1993, and according to Netflix, on the 4th anniversary of his wife's death, Sisko takes a melancholy late-night stroll along the promenade.
Succinct.
Indeed.
A lot more happened than that. That's a very brief summary.
Yeah, alas, it did. Andy, Mr. Amaranth.
Yes, hello.
Tell us who we have with us this week.
Well, today we are joined by a special guest who is 1/3 of the Measure of Fan podcast, a Star Trek podcast in which three nerds watch Star Trek for chronological order, one for the very first time, and I fucked that up. And that guest is Eliot Red. Hello, Eliot.
Hey guys, thank you for having me. It's super cool to be on a second Star Trek podcast. I just love it.
You are welcome.
So, Eliot, are you the noob in the Measure of a Fan then?
Indeed, I am the noob. I am the one that's, in air quotes, never seen Star Trek before. I've seen the Abrams films.
They don't count.
No,
You've seen even less than me then.
I've seen. I also saw First Contact when I was very young, very young.
How old are you?
I just turned 30.
Okay.
So I'm like, I've just become passable to people of your age, technically, I think is what I found.
How rude. It's disgraceful. I was going to compliment you on being like an uber noob, because I was previously the noob, but you are an uber noob. But actually, I don't want to give you that title now because you've been so ridiculously ageist.
Oh yeah. You should, I mean, have you listened to Measure of a Fan? Do you not know anything about my personality?
No, I don't. You don't expect me to do homework, do you? I haven't got time to listen to podcasts. Actually, this brings us on to what have we done in the last week, because I tell you what, I've been working hard, as usual, right? And I haven't had a chance to do other things like homework and listen to other people's podcasts, which is obviously now to my detriment, because I don't know anything about you.
Well, before we do that, then, yeah,
all right.
Before you go on about your exciting week, because I'm sure it has been exciting. Eliot, tell us a wee bit about your Star Trek experience, other than we now know you watched the Abrams films.
Yeah, so I guess for anybody who doesn't know who I am, I'm on a podcast with my brother and his friend where we're watching all of Star Trek from the beginning of the in-universe timeline. So all the way through. So the earliest set thing in Star Trek, we start there and we work our way forwards through that timeline.
The good news is, even PJ is really, kind of like, why did I suggest this?
We thought it would be fun. We were kind of right.
That's so we started thing that you do, Andy, though, and then you complain that it doesn't all match.
It doesn't. It really doesn't. And as Eliot is slowly discovering, it doesn't match.
Yeah, we
started to discover very soon.
Yeah, oh yeah. I've discovered it through just watching one show. That's how bad this show is. Enterprise is the only thing that I've seen the entirety of. We finished it fairly recently. And yeah,
2
I was
months
just
ago.
so I'm glad somebody knows that, because as soon as I was done with Enterprise, I was like, and on to the rest of my life, because holy crap.
I
Holy
only
crap.
remember because I was watching or rewatching your last episode, obviously the video version where you have to start again and again, blah blah.
Oh, yeah.
Just because I did do a bit of homework. See,
Don't make me look bad. Yeah, go on. I know.
Yes, I
Well, you've watched more Enterprise than I have.
I'm sorry.
In fact,
I
please.
think Tim should be apologising.
If you're,
True.
I'm more than happy for you to take that hit for me. That's fine. I was amazed when I found that they'd made more than one series of that thing. I remember hearing at the time that it was a pile of pants, and thought they must have canned it after one series, and then I found out they made like 4 or 5.
I
4
chalk it up to
seasons.
the Phantom Menace effect, where everyone went and saw it. It was like, new Star Wars. Oh, it was good, wasn't it? It was good. I think it was good.
I remember
They
watching
made another
Phantom
one.
Menace first time. We all thought it was good at the time, and then we didn't.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's as they say in Buffy, Phantom Menace board, brilliant, perfect, and true. Okay, so shall we do the old Tim?
Yeah, me.
How's your week
Oh.
been? Not last week, obviously.
Obviously, last week. Yes.
Yes.
Yeah. Busy, stressful, the usual. Everything. So not a great deal of interest to anyone. Although next week I'm on leave, so I may have a slightly more interesting, or certainly less stressful week to tell everyone about. And maybe I'll actually have managed to watch something or read something. But the only thing of note is last week I said that I got the Catherine Mansfield collection of short stories.
Yes.
Talking about the modernist fiction. Whereas this week I have Virginia Woolf, Kew Gardens, which is it's a selection of her short stories. So Catherine Mansfield and Virginia Woolf are friends and contemporaries and so forth. So as I got the Catherine Mansfield, I thought I'll get some Virginia Woolf short stories as well, because I've got most of Virginia Woolf's novels, and I love that period of fiction, but I love, in particular, I love Virginia Woolf's work. So
clearly, Tim only has time to read short stories, not actual whole books.
At the moment, I don't even have time for that. I have time to buy the occasional book and hold it,
Stack it on the shelf,
and that's it. But I am hopeful for greater things coming from next week. So
don't have any great expectations, will you?
Great expectations. No, I don't know what the dickens you're on about there, but
what, the Shakespeare?
Yeah, I know.
Wow,
the
level of humour here is slightly higher class than what I'm used to on Measure of a Fan. I'm not going to lie.
It won't last.
Thank you very much. Thank you. That's yeah. I'm sure.
Wait till we get to the episode.
Yeah. So yeah, unfortunately, that's. Do I want to turn on sticky keys? No, I don't want to turn on sticky keys. Go away. I don't know where that came from. So yeah, that's my week in a nutshell. Basically, the same as most of my weeks the last sort of 6 or 7 weeks. Really, really dull. This being the highlight.
Okay.
Wow.
Again, Eliot.
Hi.
As your newbie, and how has your week been?
My week's I'm not such a big reader. I kind of wish I was. It's something that I've read books, obviously, but not. I don't read very often, and when I do, it's usually a comic. Not gonna lie.
There's nothing wrong with that.
Yeah, no, I know.
Some.
But there's still some that would be like, that's not reading. You know, some aficionados out there.
Yeah, these are people who've never had a life.
Well, I mean, I get it. There is a difference between being forced to visualize everything yourself and having stuff visualized for you. So I do see the difference, but at the same time, I can't visualize those Spider-Man poses better than people can draw them.
Maybe, depending on the artiste.
Depending on the artist, you are absolutely right with that.
Because some are really awful.
I've been mostly looking forward to video games and trying to decide what TV show I want to watch in the absolute tidal wave of everything that's come out in the last 3 years. I've never even seen The Mandalorian.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I would quite like to. I hear it's really good, but then obviously there's 100 other Star Wars shows that have come out since then on top of that.
The good thing is, with the majority of the new Star Wars, other than Andor and Obi-Wan, they all kind of sequential, so at least... Well, is that a good thing? Because then you can't really dip in. Because you couldn't do necessarily Ahsoka, I don't think, if you haven't seen...
watch Obi-Wan. I did watch Obi-Wan because I was just too excited for Ewan McGregor and...
many a man have said that.
Hayden Christensen. So I did watch Obi-Wan.
I'd certainly recommend The Mandalorian. I think...
a lot of people are talking to me about Ahsoka as well now, saying that's really good.
That was good. I enjoyed that a lot.
Yeah, I liked Ahsoka. So, actually, that is one thing from last week. I did manage eventually to squeeze in the Ahsoka finale.
Finale, yeah.
Finale.
Is it the finale? Because obviously it's
the season finale.
Yes. I don't want to give it away because obviously Elliot's not seen it. It's still new, so that would be technically a spoiler.
At least you know there's only 8 episodes in the series, so that's...
I really enjoyed it. Mandalorian and me, we don't get on as well. I think Mandalorian, I find it very slow. It's in no rush to get to where it's getting at all. And it has this problem with, certainly the second and third season, where it seems to be, like we've discussed off camera earlier, it's too busy trying to set things up for something else, for spin-offs. And that was like, well, now you're too busy setting off Ahsoka, you're too busy setting up Boba Fett, you're just too busy setting up this. And it's like, can you just tell your story? Mind you, the book of Boba Fett's worse in that regard, because it's basically Mandalorian season 2.5. That's where it's, I think.
Pretty much.
And then sort of it goes to, I think, the last 2 or 3 episodes. It suddenly stops just to become 3 episodes of Mandalorian. And Boba Fett literally guest spots in one scene in those episodes, if at all. I'm like, what the hell is this?
Standing outside of having seen all of these Star Wars shows, apart from Obi-Wan, it's weird. I don't know how I feel about this a massive amount of Star Wars content that started coming out. I kind of liked when Star Wars was just the films that existed.
Yeah, but we got the fans to blame for that because they complained too much about Solo and Last Jedi and stuff. And so
I like Solo.
Obi-Wan was supposed to be a movie, I think, and then they just turned around and said, fine, we're not making that movie. And okay, now they've made it into a TV series, which is
that makes so much sense. And that's what I feel from a lot of the Marvel series feel like. They feel like films that have been split up into TV series.
You said that the other day, I agree.
I liked The Mandalorian and I liked the Book of Boba Fett, and I liked the way that it wasn't hurried storytelling, and I liked the way that they were integrated. I appreciate I'm probably in a minority on the Book of Boba Fett, but I think it's one of those things you just certainly sample Mandalorian season 1. If you think and if you're comfortable with it, then carry on, see where it takes you. I just think it's good to you don't have to. It's not binge TV. You can watch it. I mean, one thing that does annoy me slightly is that all the episodes are odd lengths.
They are.
You can tell it's not made for network TV because some of them are like 35 minutes, some of them are 47 minutes or 55 minutes or whatever. It's like, for God's sake, how difficult is it to try and stick to the same length? But I enjoyed just dipping into it now and again. I watched it all a couple of times, mainly because my boys wanted to watch it after I'd watched it. So,
see, I will say this, Elliot. This is pretty typical for us. We do spend a whole lot more of the podcast, I think, talking about other shows than we do Star Trek sometimes.
That's absolutely fine. It's quite a nice refresher, me, because sometimes on Measure of a Fan, we'll get to a topic I really enjoy, and then as soon as I'm about to... Back to the episode. Yeah, okay, fine. So it's nice to have a little bit of freedom.
Oh, we freeball. We're just the conversation goes where it goes, and we will talk about the episode a bit.
Of course,
We will.
yeah, of course.
Maybe even 20 minutes if we're lucky.
I'd be disappointed having watched it to not talk about it.
Actually, to be fair, yeah, with that episode, I would be disappointed too. I am sorry about the episode choice.
I was disappointed having to watch it as well.
So,
I'm totally
briefly,
used to this. Like, this is Star Trek.
disappointment. Yeah, I haven't heard the podcast. This is absolutely spot on. Very on brand, yeah. Just quickly then, my week has been basically work. That's pretty much it. I've not done a whole lot else, to be fair. Obviously, Cell Block H in the evening, as usual. I did watch on Saturday. I assume Saturday. It might be Sunday because I was free. I can't remember. But I watched...
You went on Anchorman then. I'm Ron Burgundy.
That's okay. The recording always picks up clearly, so it'll be fine. The Flash, as in the film.
Oh boy. Oh boy. How was it, Andy?
Long. It's pretty much mostly what I've been hearing from everybody and all the clips I've seen. So, I mean, all the clips on YouTube obviously give away all the big,
I've seen the
fan
air quotes crazy stuff. Yeah.
I say fan pleasing because it didn't please many fans. What they thought would be fan pleasing moments. It's a weird film. It's, as many people have said, it's supposedly Flash's first standalone movie ever, but it's more of a Batman/Superman film without Superman actually being in it, other than lots of cameo Superman in it, and it's very weird. I mean, like the whole bit where he goes into the multiverse. I don't know if you've seen this, Tim. So if I'm spoiling it, sorry. Actually, you can't spoil this film. Honestly, it's fine. It's not one of those films that a spoiler really makes it any worse. It's this bit towards the end. He's in the multiverse. He's getting a view of the multiverse. He's in this voidy space in between, and almost everything he sees of the alternates are three versions of Superman, including Chris Reeves, the other Reeves. What's the other one's name? George Reeves, is it? From his black and white TV show. I think that's him. You don't even see a Henry Cavill.
No, Henry Cavill.
No, oddly enough, no, which is very that would have been the obvious one. Oh, no.
I know.
He does get a sort of shot of him, but not actually in any kind of CG recreation thing, thankfully. And then you have Helen Slater, Supergirl, makes an appearance as well. And for some really bizarre reason, the Nicolas Cage Superman, who was never actually a canonical Superman anyway, ever. And it's like, and they give him a lot of airtime.
I heard that they actually used, because the only thing that exists of Nick Cage Superman is them auditioning him and him just wearing the suit. And I heard that they used that footage and CGI'd it.
Basically, long flowing hair, because obviously he would have got his hair cut for the actual film.
Yeah.
It's weird. And then you get Adam West Batman briefly as well. Obviously, Michael Keaton's Batman's in it, and Ben Affleck Batman in it, and George Clooney makes a cameo randomly as well. And then you get one alternate Flash, and it's not even any of the Flash from the TV show. It's like, whose film is this?
I haven't seen it, but I do know all the details that you're talking about. And yeah,
it's funny.
The hilarious detail is that Ben Affleck turns into George Clooney.
Apparently, he's now in the alternate timeline that he's reset, so it's now George Clooney. But what is fun, because obviously this now suggests that the four Batman films from the 90s and early 2000s, the Val Kilmer and George Clooney Batman weren't actually the same character at all, because Michael Keaton lives on to be an old Batman in this film. So it turns out George Clooney and Robin, and that was actually a different timeline, not actually. And I assume therefore Val Kilmer and meeting Riddler was also a different timeline.
I mean, thank God that we can make these connections now. Thank God for the Flash, right?
Yeah, it really did made everything so much neater and tidier. But ironically, the Flash's actual story, which is the usual story about trying to save his mum and his dad, everything they'd done in the TV series ad nauseam. Would have been a good enough film if they just stuck to it. But they got so bogged down in, for some reason, let's replay Man of Steel with having him and Batman and
isn't Zod in
Supergirl.
it?
Yeah, they team up to fight Zod because Superman's not there.
Yeah.
And it's like, whose film is this?
Yeah.
It's yeah. But, it didn't disappoint because I knew this was going in. So at least I knew what I was going into, so I couldn't go in thinking, "Oh, this should have been so much better." Because I'm like, "Well, I knew it wasn't going to be." So
I mean,
It's
DC.
I can't wait. I can't wait to not watch that.
Yeah, it's DC literally getting as hungry for Marvel money as they possibly could, considering that the previous, I think, with Shazam 2, Black Adam, and now The Flash, they lost like 600 million in total with all three of those films.
Yep. See, I'd have to say though, I quite like Shazam 2. I thought that was, for me, as good as the first one.
I mean, yeah, Shazam and Shazam 2 look like the best DC films, arguably.
You've not seen them then, or
no, I haven't seen them.
Yeah,
but they look like justifiable superhero films.
Yeah, they're good. They're good, enjoyable. Black Adam wasn't even that bad, to be fair. I mean, it definitely suffers. That's why I thought cat and mouse again. It's just got the toilet roll. The cardboardy bit, obviously.
I was going to say, should be only Andrex puppies that do that.
You're not in my house. Yeah. Black Adam. Dwayne Johnson's ego was like all over it, but it wasn't that bad. Anyway, shall we do something really crazy and talk about Deep Space Nine?
I was going to mention it at some point.
Yeah. We'll squeeze it in, shall we? So, as is the tradition, we've had 2 guests so far, I think, in total, and they were the same person.
Yes.
So,
isn't that one guest?
Well, it's 2 different episodes, like a year apart. So, and it was literally a year apart. It took us a year to get through the first season. Literally a year.
Wow.
Through various delays and whatevers.
Yeah, it wasn't through not enjoying it. It's just real life got in the way, unfortunately.
Yeah, season 1 wasn't actually that bad in hindsight, I think. Season 2, I think, is shaping up to be good, apart from this episode. Sorry, bad choice. Next episode is really quite good, I think, but obviously Eliot will be away, so...
Well, you've given me a one-way view into just this episode, and now that's what I think Deep Space Nine is.
Yay. So you look forward to getting to that now. Okay, Eliot, I was going to say to you, as our guest, you may open up the conversation in what did you think of this episode?
Okay.
Free range.
So, again, just for anybody out there, I only have Enterprise to reference this to. It's the only thing that I have in terms of what can I judge this against in terms of Star Trek that I know. So
that should be a good thing.
Yeah. Yeah. No, yeah.
It should be.
Yeah, should be.
Can't be any worse, right?
Mostly is. There's a few immediate changes that I notice.
Okay.
The set design is much more hotel interior rather than spaceship, which it was on thing, which I'm fine with. There's absolutely no reason that in the future your spaceship needs to look like a spaceship on the inside. It should be cozy and be psychologically comforting, to be in an environment that you're going to be in for an extended period of time like that. So that's cool. I didn't immediately know that, because the first person that we see is like the captain, as you said in the little description of the episode. He goes for a walk on the promenade.
That's it. That's the whole episode.
Late night stroll.
Melancholy.
That's the whole episode.
Late night meditation on the promenade, just like most captains do. So,
can I just interrupt just briefly to explain why I got, because we don't normally do the Netflix blurb, but I saw it on Netflix yesterday. I saw the blurb, and then I scrolled down for a few hours. I was like, wow, we have got to do these blurbs every week because this is ridiculous. They just... How does that tell you anything about the story?
It really didn't. It really didn't.
Oh, God. Wait till they get to the really big stuff.
That's the equivalent of an Enterprise episode name, which also usually has nothing to do with the episode. The episode titles of Enterprise are hilariously not related.
Agreed.
So yeah, this episode starts fairly average for what I'd expect a Star Trek episode to start. Not much happening, cozy environment, very quiet sound, very soft-spoken people speaking softly. And obviously this is my first interaction or anything with Captain, is it Sisko? Commander Sisko. Yes, because it's not captain. He's the commander of the space station.
Yes, he's the command. He's basically not the sheriff. He's the town mayor, I suppose, or the administrator of the colony. Yeah.
I did like him more than Archer, obviously. I'm sure you saw that coming.
Well, if you didn't, I would have been deep. I am actually glad because, as Tim has noted, and we've both noted over the past season and a bit, Sisko, bizarrely being the supposed lead character, he's not the lead character much at this point. He's always about. You can feel his presence just as the commander. But we've had very, very few episodes that have focused on him. So the fact that this one is a Sisko episode is great for your introduction. And the fact that the first scene was so good with him and his son. That was so good. Perfect.
I do think...
Yes.
He's played very robotic from what I saw in this episode.
He's I think I might have said this to Tim before. His Avery Brooks's delivery has a very Shatner-esque vibe about it. Very theatrical, very
sure.
His way he delivers his lines can be, especially when he gets angry. That
it
real
took
like
me
pause
about half the episode to get used to the way he was acting. I couldn't decipher if it was good or bad acting for the first half of the episode because it was nothing I'd ever seen before.
Yeah,
but by the end of the episode,
the first episode as well, I struggled for most of the first episode, thinking, is this guy really bad or what?
Right, yeah, that's
interesting. It's a choice.
Okay, but by the end of the episode, I'd sort of warmed to it a bit more and wasn't quite in such a confuddled state about it. I was just like, it's just a performance.
Just oddly enough, he is actually he's got a doctorate in acting or something like that. He teaches it. It's a literal. He's a proper professor of it. So it's obviously a very stylized, deliberate choice.
Sure,
I guess, but it is what it is.
Yeah, due to the nature of the plot of the episode, really didn't learn much about any other character.
No, I did think that watching. I'm like, oh, this is not his best introduction to anybody else other than Jadzia, really. Dax is our friend.
Because for anyone who doesn't know, this episode is about a lady who isn't there.
Except for she might be.
But she might be, but
Yeah. I was going to ask you, did you pick up on, because obviously, as you said, most everybody else weren't really in this episode very much, other than Dax. I think she was the only main character who got any...
The one that scans her and says she's pure energy.
Yeah.
Right.
And you may have picked up the whole thing where a few times she mentioned how she used to be a man.
No, that skipped past me.
Really?
Yeah.
Because the first time she goes to him and saying, have you got anything to tell me? And he's like, I don't know what you mean. And of course, he wouldn't quite tell her about this new woman he's met. And she's like, oh, was it easier to talk to me when I was a man? Because like a man-to-man talk. Is it harder to do now I'm a woman?
Okay, it's possible that she doesn't say when I was a man and just says now that I'm a woman, and that may have gone over my head and I've been like, I don't know what the fuck you mean by that. Like,
that's possible.
Yeah, I think so.
Because I'm pretty sure if I heard her say
the male name as well a few times.
Yeah, but Curzon could easily
exactly. If you don't know what Curzon represents, and you're not gonna you're not gonna pick it up. So
if I'd heard her say when I was a man, I'm sure I would have picked up on it.
It's like, what?
Yes, because now I'm a woman now could just be because it refers to her having grown up from being a girl.
Age.
Easy. Yeah. That makes sense. Interesting.
So I didn't know that. A guy at work told me a little bit about, is it Odo?
Odo, yes.
Odo.
Yep.
And just because I was like, he looks really weird. He was like, he's a shapeshifter. I was like,
Yes, he is.
oh, that actually explains why he looks weird. Okay, fair enough.
Well, the whole point was until later on, which I don't want to give too much because Tim's not seen anything later on yet either. But at this point, he's made a few allusions to the fact that he's not very good at mimicking the human face. He's like the nose in particular, he's not very good at. Although he's obviously trying because he's got like a slightly flat nose, so I guess he's trying to do the Bergeron ridge thing, but not done it very well. But later on, when you actually meet more of his species, which you do, they all look the same. And,
interesting.
And it's like, well, as you will learn, these are actually really good at what they do because he's just not very good at shapeshifting because he's apparently quite young. But this whole you can't emulate a human face turns out to be, well, not necessarily not true, but I think it's more a case of it's something they change their minds about later on, as these shows often do.
Okay.
You know, they revise information they gave earlier, and
that's fair enough. So, was this your first time watching this episode as well, Tim?
Yes. Yes. Yeah, completely. The only episode I'd seen before this was before I started watching this, was a much later episode that I'd seen on DVD box set some years back, and I'd also generally I was at college and uni back in the 90s when the show was on, and on the whole, I was getting a bit fed up with the whole Star Trek franchise, kind of, because it seemed to be a bit of a monster at the time. So I hadn't watched any of it when it was first broadcast because I'd already given up on Next Generation by then and decided that I just didn't have time for it. And I remember hearing the premise and thinking, oh God, I don't want to watch a program set on a space station. That's really dull. But over the years, a few people have said to me, "Oh, Deep Space Nine is the best of the Star Trek series." I agree. So that's kind of how I've managed to get myself into this position now.
Fair enough.
So it's my fault entirely.
This is my first time watching this, and I thought at the beginning, it's a Cisco episode at last. At last, because that's kind of been. There hasn't really been one since the opening, like, two-parter pilot, essentially.
Yeah.
I made a few notes. Shall I go through my notes, Andy, or do you have
by
what to say?
Let me show you my notes. Are you ready for this?
Yeah.
That's literally the first scene, which is basically, I say, middle age sucks. I basically said Ben and Jake, perfection, dreams, sharing the love, affection, missing Jennifer, and then I got Fenner, and I kind of fell asleep.
Fenner, scroll down the rest of the page.
I'm not kidding. I was, when you're watching something that you've seen so many times, and I've said it to Tim many times, I have seen DS9, God, bear in mind it's 30 years ago, almost 30 years ago, this episode. I've watched it once or twice in the 30 years. Basically, since you've been alive, Eliot. You're as old as Deep Space... Actually, no, you're a year younger than Deep Space Nine.
God, he is, isn't he? That's terrible.
Do you know, I looked up something that came out in 1993. Wallace and Gromit, The Wrong Trousers.
Oh, really?
Mm-hmm.
Wow. I hate young people.
And I'm on the cusp where I can say I hate young people too.
Yes, you can now. You definitely can. Yes, generation, mate. What was I saying?
I don't know. You're saying about how you enjoyed the first scene and then fell asleep when Fenner came on.
Yeah, so, when you've watched something a lot, that you just chill on the sofa watching it and you sort of know you're drifting because you're like, it don't matter if I sleep because I'll wake up. I won't have missed anything because I know the story. I've watched it a few times. And it was one of those situations. And it's the first one that's happened to me while doing this. Especially, obviously, normally me and Tim watch them at the same time, so that's different. But before we actually started watching them at the same time, we used to just watch them and then make notes, whatever, or not make notes. But this is the first episode that has made me literally go,
Well, also, Fenner kind of comes on and starts. There's a certain sort of like somnambulant quality anyway to all her sort of sexy talk. And
Yes,
and it
yes.
is. It's just she's just
Well,
using this
to be
tone of voice
honest,
and thinks, I'm coming on screen. I'm going to be sexy. I'm
well,
going to sound sexy.
to be fair, whenever women start trying to be sexy and talk, I do have a habit of falling asleep anyway. I'm like,
Exactly.
ugh, yeah. Not interested.
And I could tell straight away that it wasn't going to be quite all it looked to be, because of course it's the 4th anniversary of Jennifer's death, and it would be wholly inappropriate for him to start copping off with someone on the anniversary of his wife's death.
It's
I think
though.
Someone who he just met randomly.
Yes, on his melancholy late night stroll.
Melancholy late night stroll on the promenade.
On the promenade, yes.
What I love is the fact that they make such a big thing in the beginning of the episode about it's a 4th anniversary, even Jake's tapping into that without realising he's tapping into it.
Yeah.
And it doesn't really play much into the story itself beyond that, really. They mention it once or twice, but then it doesn't really go anywhere.
Well, it's only important in the scenes where his son is there, which is like 2 scenes.
That's why, because that's one thing I did note, because I'd woken up by that point. When you get to the end of the episode, I thought I'd tune in for the end. I figured, really good writing dictates that last scene should have been a scene with him and Jake again.
Absolutely.
To actually bookend where Ben's realizing it's okay to move on. But it just doesn't go there, and it's weird.
There's a lot of interesting places they could have.
I don't think this was. I don't think this was a very well written episode either. One of the notes I'd made actually was that it's and the show does this from time to time, but it was particularly noticeable in this episode. It's the Tolkien effect. How when Tolkien introduces a character, they are someone son of so and so, someone's son, and they go back 18 generations or whatever. And so you've got Dax and Cisco having a meal, and she says, "You're not going to let that last piece of Andorian tuber root go to waste, are you?" So, no, too many words. Everything has to be something. It's just, you don't say. You say, "Are you going to let that? Are you going to finish your food? Are you going to let that? Are you going to leave that tuber root to go to waste or something?" It doesn't have to be an Andorian tuber root. It doesn't. It's again. It reminds me of Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy as well, Arctura Megadonkey and stuff like that, which is great because it's done humorously there. Here, it's unnecessary. It just
trying to take yourself seriously.
That the tuber root is Andorian. Andorian doesn't mean anything to me as a casual viewer. Or
it does to me.
Oh, it does, because you've done Enterprise, yeah.
I still totally agree with you, Tim. Absolutely, 100%.
It's a pointless detail. It's not needed. It does not help the scene. It does not help the episode. It doesn't help the characters' interplay. It is unnecessary. It's too many words being spoken, and that's it.
Absolutely. You're 100% right.
It would be like us, isn't it? Having some chicken and going,
second.
That's fine. It'd be like us going, "Oh, do you want that chicken that come from this farm on this place?" And you just call it chicken. Yeah. But Andorian definitely means something to you, doesn't it, Eliot?
It was interesting because I couldn't believe that they'd referenced it, but they'd referenced it in a way that had no importance or matter.
Well, at this time in the history of Star Trek, in terms of narrative history, the Andorians are just another race now.
Sure, they're just part of the Federation. Yeah,
this is like 200 years, give or take, since Enterprise. So they are now one of the founding members, and that's who they are. So, in fact, the Andorians haven't appeared at this point in Star Trek. We've only seen, I think, one Andorian since Next Gen began. So we're
tuber root.
And a tuber root. So we're
tuber root.
So we're
wasted tuber root.
So we're like 7 years into this series as an ongoing thing again, and we've had literally one brief cameo Andorian. It's literally Enterprise that did something with them.
Okay.
They did something with them.
So I do have a question because you guys have been watching the show. You know far more about how this space station functions and kind of should be going on and all that. Is it common for somebody that the commander has never seen before and has no idea who they are to walk onto the promenade randomly in a sexy red dress?
Yes.
Yeah.
Really?
It's basically just like a frontier town where people pass through to go to the next place.
Okay.
So it's literally basically
random encounters are common then.
Yeah, the essential setup. It's orbiting a wormhole.
Mm-hmm.
Again, this doesn't give away major plot stuff, and besides, by the time you get there to DS9, it's going to be so many years away for you.
Oh, it's literally just I would assume
away.
in every Star Trek show when somebody the captain doesn't know wanders onto the bridge, he turns to them and goes, "And who the fuck are you?" Like,
well, this is it. Yeah, on a starship, definitely.
Yeah.
But this is a space station. It's a free port. People come and go. Ships are docking all the time.
Okay, that makes a lot of sense.
It's like a multi-floor shopping centre kind of thing. So same kind of thing. The shopping centre manager goes for a melancholy late night stroll.
Yeah.
Around the third floor, check that the food establishments have closed down, and just happens to on the 4th anniversary of his wife passing, and just happens to come across a customer,
a late night shopper
in a sexy red dress. Yeah,
which you probably stole from the shop. This is pretty standard because it's just basically ships coming and going all the time. Because Starfleet, it's not actually a Starfleet station either. It's a Cardassian station. I think they maybe mentioned to you already in passing, possibly that the Bajorans run.
That's Cardassian, not Kardashian.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah. No big bumps here.
Yeah, thankfully.
Oh God, this is way before them. Thank God. Can you imagine? So basically Starfleet are just administrating the station for these Bajorans who they've just come through this really horrible long history, and so Starfleet's come to basically give them a hand. So he's literally just the administrator of a colony, essentially. So people are coming and going all the time. So this is perfectly normal.
Okay.
Although Sisko doesn't generally bump into people that often because we don't see much of him. Which is a nice change from Archer because we saw a lot of Archer. Or you did. I know. See, Eliot still has nightmares about this. You can tell.
Well, there's one thing I did like about this episode. I did like the I don't know scene between Sisko and Odo.
Oh yeah, the one where Sisko's trying to give the description of, and he's got nothing. Yeah, she's female and has a red dress.
Oh,
Thanks.
Also, she's humanoid. Yeah, so's every fucking race, dude. Like, that doesn't help at all.
He didn't mention her pointy ears. I noticed.
Oh, what, Vulcan? No, different pointed ears.
Yeah, they are different. Yeah. They were like slightly pointier.
Yeah,
had like 3 years in
like
one.
An elf. Yeah,
yeah.
Come on,
like an elf,
like they have in Lord of the Rings. Yeah.
I've never seen and a Vulcan had a baby.
But, well, you may have read the book.
I doubt it.
But, yeah. So I did like that, and there were some. I thought that there were some good performances along the way. But I mean, Sayatic, was it Sayatic? That's
Sayatic, yeah.
That's a Sayatic. He was perfectly annoying.
Yeah, he was great.
But he was obviously he was supposed to be. So it was a good performance in that respect. And the lady playing Fenna and whatever her
Nadell.
Nadell, that's it.
Yeah, I've got it all here.
They were good. They were good, solid guest performances. Sayatic he represented a lot about. I have preconceptions about a lot of Star Trek, and I don't know whether a lot of them are justified. Occasionally, I'll bring them up. This seemed to tick a lot of my preconceptions about what I disliked about Star Trek generally.
Well, can I tell you a couple of fun facts?
Go on then, cheer me up.
Cheer you up. Okay. Yeah. Number one, do you know how this episode will be much worse? No, this will mean nothing. Yeah, this will mean not much to you, Eliot, because we didn't see much of Bashir in this episode, the Doctor. But Tim is not a fan. Which
no, he's been much better recently.
He's better this season, but season one Bashir was Oh.
He's just creepy.
You'll get there. You'll understand. Elliot, you watch the movie first and you'll be like, oh God, he's such a creep. Because he is. But season 2, they've kind of sussed him out a wee bit. But apparently, this was originally conceived as a Bashir episode.
Right, okay.
Can you see how that would have gone wrong?
Well, yeah, if Bashir had been the one that was out taking a melancholy late-night stroll along the promenade, celebrating the 4th anniversary of Sitzko's wife's death, I mean, that's wholly inappropriate. I can't think of anything vaguely less appropriate than that.
You know what I loved about this is that now Elliot's suddenly come on board. It's become a comedy podcast.
It's fine. It's fine. Any integrity you guys had before, you'll maintain. It's fine.
Well, we'll see about that.
Don't have integrity.
Go on. What else? Okay, a factoid about Ceatic, whatever stupid name. What freaking name is that anyway?
About Benelix.
Yeah, for Benelix. Apparently, the writer, Mr. Wolf, says they basically messed him up when they wrote him. They blamed the writing, saying they wrote him as a jerk, blah, blah, blah. But their plan was meant to be, he was an egomaniac, one of those consumed artists who's good at everything and knows it, but to make himself likable, he had to be larger-than-life John Hudson type of character. But the actor they cast, as he says, I love Richard Kiley, but I felt we only got to see one side of the character. We got his bigness, but we didn't get his soul, his bitterness and boldness that we tried to give him. So the intent was, had they got the actor they presumably wanted, was he's going to be this very flamboyant, so that this ego and arrogance, you kind of don't mind because he's such a fun person to be around. But the actor, he kind of leaned into the arrogance bit. Cause I'm watching it, being aware of this, and I'm like, I can see it there, that they're trying to make him this kind of likable because he's so over the top. And the actor seems to be trying every now and then, but he didn't sell it other than the...
I tell you what I found most annoying about him is the fact that he kept laughing at his own witticisms and stuff.
Again, if he was an OTT character, that might have worked. Because the actor was playing it in quite sincere in many ways, you're like, yeah, you just sound like a dick.
Yeah, those kind of preconceptions, because he falls into that sort of mold completely of okay, you would usually be the Enterprise, but the Enterprise picks up an eccentric character who like lives and works on their own or whatever, happens to be brilliant at what they do, and then there's something that they bring to the ship which then affects other people, and it seemed to be sort of ticking those boxes for me, and I didn't warm to it at all, and I thought it was I thought it was a lazy episode that could have been done in the original series or Next Generation.
See, that's interesting because I made a very short video explaining why the delay, and I did make a comment in that where I say, Elliot's introduction of Deep Space Nine is the most Star Trek episode of DS9 possibly ever. It's so Star Trek and so not Deep Space Nine. I mean, I know DS9 stuff, but you know what I'm saying. DS9 is... I mean, maybe even at this point, Tim, you're noticing that it's very un-Star Trek in places.
Well, the best episode... Elliot, you may not have seen our chatcast before. I appreciate I've not seen yours either. But we tend to kind of discuss whether or not we think that the episode may have worked in an earlier iteration of Star Trek. So although I've not, I don't think I've seen all of the original series. I've certainly not seen all of Next Generation, but I've seen enough or I saw enough of them back in the day, watching them on telly, that to kind of get an understanding of the sort of stories that they told. And generally speaking, the best DS9 episodes so far are ones that you think actually they only work within the context of this space station setup.
Agreed.
Whereas, this one
immediately
I was thinking, I think I've seen stuff like this before.
could have transposed
Probably
every member of the
but
crew.
it just the
anyone
perception
else.
within me as a viewer was that this is something that I've. You're not showing me anything new or original here. You're not showing me anything that you're not telling a story that could only be told with those characters on that space station. So
That's very reasonable. Yeah, I totally agree. I think you could have swapped out every character in this episode for, the equivalent of what they are in another TV show. For example, Enterprise. Sisko could have easily been Archer, and the same thing would have happened, and he would have had the same reaction because his personality doesn't matter in this episode. It matters that he sees the pretty girl and wants her. Doesn't, and then she has absolutely it's hilarious at the end when the woman who's been dreaming up this fake woman comes and says, "What was she like?" And he goes, "She was just like you,"
which is bullshit.
She hasn't emitted any personality throughout any of the scenes in the episode.
And he's barely spoken
and goes,
to
"Oh,
her.
I like you."
And he barely met the Nandel character anyway, because most of it she was in a coma anyway.
He doesn't even know her either.
Well, she cooked up a meal for him.
Oh yes, and then said, "I don't know who you are. I don't know what you're talking about." And that was it.
And you get that you get that wonderful moment that the audience is expecting when, of course, it's her that walks out through the door and just
You're so obviously.
Also,
I did like there was the suggestion at the start that she was going to be she was going to turn out to be a figment of Sisko's imagination, and that kind of it persisted.
Would have been more interesting.
It persisted for a while, and then I did like the fact that Dax mentioned that she'd seen them on the promenade together on a melancholy late night stroll. I think it was on the anniversary of someone's death.
I wish we had used that as our intro now. This is us taking a melancholy stroll through.
And when she said that, I thought, actually, that's clever to implant in the viewer. Then the viewer starts to doubt themselves slightly. It was not enough to rescue the episode by any means, but I just thought it was an interesting way to go. But so you automatically think, okay, it's not quite as sort of black and white as it were as maybe you originally thought. But yeah, as I said, unfortunately, it wasn't enough to kind of raise this above the level of sort of largely unmitigated crap.
So, for a little bit of explanation as well, this woman isn't real because she's being dreamt up by a telepath who's in emotional distress because she doesn't love her husband but her species mate for life. So the fuck she gonna do, right?
Bond for life. I'm not sure they mate for life necessarily.
Oh, okay, right.
Can you imagine those two mating?
And then
not for life. No, bless him. He's old enough as it is. I don't think he'd be. I think that would finish him off.
No more creating stars.
So yeah, Mr. Space Millionaire comes along.
They say whatever his name was,
and he starts
stupid name
bragging about his wife and how she loves him and how she immediately fell in love with him when she saw him, and then it finishes his big speech by going, "I don't know why she loves me, but she does. I don't know why though." And then later on you find out she fucking doesn't, and you know she doesn't. So why are you having this big faff around on the fucking bridge speaking about something which isn't true? It's all
nonsense. About him, isn't it?
Also, I totally forgot my wife is an extremely powerful telepath that can cast illusions on the ship. I'm really sorry, that slipped my mind.
Yeah. Sorry. Yeah, did I not mention that to you, Commander Sisko? Oh, yeah. Sorry about that.
God, I wish we was doing next episode now because it's so relevant to what's going on today in the world that I think Eliot would be like, "Wow, so this is what Star Trek can do."
Yeah.
You'd have to watch it just because now. No, he won't. Yeah.
I have to stick to the timeline after this.
You do.
Once I go back.
I'm going to drag you in for season 3 at some point. You're going to get a literally yearly encounter with DS9 that's going to completely mess up Pat's timeline.
I like it. I have no respect for PJ's timeline.
Oh, we'll choose a nice one next year, honest. Actually, season 3, there's lots of good ones. But anyway, I digress.
Well, season 2's been great so far. This is it's all been really, really good. And then this one, sort of someone seems to have stepped in, trodden on, and walked around the place.
an
Or the
Andorian
late night walk.
something. Melancholy walk.
Melancholy.
Called
Cisco
stroll.
Cisco steps in something that smells awful when he's on a melancholy late night stroll along the promenade, celebrating the 4th
Why is
anniversary.
this
of
on
his
the
wife's
promenade?
death.
See, another thing
Where's
that we've
Where's the
got.
contract cleaner?
There's another thing that happens on this chatcast, Elliot, which is kind of happens on yours too. Well, I don't actually know it doesn't, because usually you don't like the episode. So generally, we find if it's episodes that we really enjoyed, we don't have a lot to talk about. So we just end up talking about anything else.
That's PJ's biggest fear when we get to good Star Trek, is that we won't have anything to say. This is his biggest fear.
This is my fear too. Like when we get into some of season 3, certainly some of the end of this season, and series 4 onwards, basically almost without fail, we're going to be like, oh, that was great. Should we do the next one? Because you're like, and it's all archy stuff, so you're like, you can't really get too much into it because you don't know what's coming next week.
Sure.
And so when you guys get to that with, I suppose you're going to get to that with Discovery in a way, because you're only going to be into archy stories as opposed to just individual stories. So that's going to be a different discussion that you guys are going to have.
I think when it comes to our podcast, if ever I'm feeling like we need to fill some time or something, I just start Matt off on a tangent or just go on one myself.
Yes, you do.
It's really fun.
Mean, it's great. I mean, actually, when the last one you guys did, you actually mostly put up the video up for your Patreon. Now you have a Patreon. We'll have to do that one. Then we get more than 20 visitors. And it was fun watching the uncut stuff. Yeah. And just seeing the often exasperation on Patrick's face when he's like, so and like this
dealing with both me and Matt.
And then there's these pregnant pauses where you guys have gone on your rant, you stopped, and he's just like,
so back on the bridge, we were following Archer, and
whereas we don't do that. Okay. What we have a habit of doing, we just ramble on about whatever. We always diverge, always, and then it does get to the point where we're like, so about the episode. Oh yeah. Sure. Yeah. Okay. Let's talk. Yeah, it's quite good. Okay. Yeah. So we're saying, but it's what we've become.
Indeed.
You just got to go with it, man. Just go with it. I don't even know why I call it a Deep Space Nine podcast, really, to be fair.
You say that about the episodes we like less, we have less to say. This is the first episode that we've disliked, where actually there's not an awful lot to say anyway, because it was so shocking.
I was thinking that,
repetition of the fact that Cisco's taken a melancholy late night stroll along the promenade on the fourth anniversary of his wife's death.
Yeah, well, I mean, what else are you going to do on the 4th anniversary? What else are you going to do on the 4th anniversary of your wife's death?
But take a late melancholy stroll.
Yeah. For me, the biggest issue was Enterprise was so consistently bad, at least for me. I know that PJ and Matt liked the odd episode.
And me now.
Sure.
Thanks. But on the plus side, you can't make me hate Discovery any less. More.
Okay, interesting. So the hardest thing for me was finding new things to say, because it would be the same complaints about an episode after episode after episode. It would be
Wasn't it often like, bad. I just can't be arsed with this shit anymore?
Quite often I'd get to that point, because it was like, I don't know what else to say. The characters were bad, the writing was bad,
I just don't care anymore.
Yeah, that happened several times.
You said that a few times. Yeah.
Yeah, I'd be halfway through an explanation and would just give up.
Podcast.
I would get halfway through a deep dive into exactly why this isn't working for me and just give up. I'd just be like, fuck it, I don't care.
It's like, you know what, I don't care. It's like, on the last episode, he did a rant about the series as a whole. He's like, right, these are things I don't think work. And I think you actually had written them all out, right?
It's the only episode I've ever done notes for. Yeah. It's the finale of Enterprise.
But even towards the end of his notes, he's just like, you know what, I just don't care enough to carry on.
I didn't finish the notes. I didn't even finish reading out the notes.
He's like, I just don't care. So viewers, listeners, seriously, check out his podcast. It's even if you're not a Star Trek fan or not an Enterprise, actually particularly an Enterprise fan, Although,
The
as I say,
idea is that if you're not a Star Trek fan, you can watch the podcast and you'll have my perspective to go off of.
absolutely, yes,
So yeah, there's if you're not a Star Trek fan, don't feel put off. Feel free to come and listen to Lee absolutely lose my mind.
And if you
'Cause I
are a
do.
Star Trek fan, you won't be for much longer.
Aye. No, with
I will
my
do
influence, eh?
I will do my best to try and check out the podcast.
No pressure, Tim. Honestly,
No,
it's
just
fine.
Just stick headphones in while you're pottering around. Mate, literally on your lunch break, just pop it in. It's only usually an hour long.
I've
I
got
tell you what you
ears.
could do.
Earphones
Do it
don't stay in my
instead of-
ears.
Oh,
Yeah, do it instead
Get
of
some of
watching
that.
Enterprise.
definitely instead of watching Enterprise.
Yeah, but you're asking me to do something I'd never want to do in the first place, or
Okay, I'm
rather
glad.
suggesting that I might do something I would never do in the first place. So
I mean,
Fair.
you're on a Star Trek podcast. I'm just letting you know it's dangerous territory. You might end up doing other things. I've watched Deep Space Nine. I didn't expect to this year.
Yeah, soon enough, someone's going to invite you. You probably get an invite from Measure of Phantom. You'll be like, oh shit! Right,
We're
better get my
actually
comedy
rewatching
chops up.
Enterprise. Anniversary measure of a fan series. Rewatch Enterprise. We're going to get every guest on for every episode.
Yeah, do it all again. Let them suffer.
Oh,
Let them enjoy the theme. See, we can't even say to you, Elliot, what did you think of the theme? Because
is the thing
was
for
like-
Enterprise the word that got vocals?
it's been a long time.
Oh, cheesy.
Get in here for Although I have got to say, right,
Yeah, that's
Elliot,
Aye.
you need to watch. They're on YouTube on the official Star Trek thingy. Very short treks, they're called. They're literally
Very short.
two,
track.
like 2 minute animation. They're supposedly celebrating the animated series from '73,
Okay.
but they're really not. They're just offensive in the wrong possible way. Apart from the very last one, which apparently was the best, because was the last one? No, not the last one. Hang on, where am I? The last but one, sorry, which is the holodeck one, and Trip is actually in it for the first time, reprising his role as Trip. I mean, Trip. You know what I'm saying? The actor.
Trip. Yeah.
Connor Trinier.
Connor Trinier.
For the first time, he's doing Trip again in an animated thing, and he starts off and he's like, he says something. He goes, "Well, it has been a long time getting from here to there," and I'm like, I see what you did there. But yeah, that's actually the best part of that episode, to be fair. The good thing about these voice very short treks, they're not canon. They've made a point of them not being canon, thank God, because they're fucking awful.
Okay.
Oh my God. They were just offensive beyond. I mean, the first episode was basically about being anti-woke. It's like, you do notice it's Star Trek, right? You're kind of missing the whole point here.
Yeah.
It's baffles me. Absolutely baffles me. So maybe don't watch them. I don't know.
I'm probably, honestly, fellas, I'm sorry, I'm probably not going to be taking any more surplus Star Trek than I need to. What with the amount that I regularly go through anyway, it's yeah.
That's true. Well,
Yes.
when they announced the very short treks, Patrick did post. He's like, "Oh, thank God they're not canon. I don't have to try to fit them in." And then he watched them. And he's like, "Oh God, really? Thank God they're not canon." Oh, they're diabolical.
By the way, that 73 animated series is in our list.
Absolutely should be, and it should be because it is. It's basically season 4 of TOS. It's just animated.
Oh, okay.
All the actors are there. They treat it exactly the same.
Interesting.
It's even though it's animated. I mean, it's a cartoon show on like morning whenever it's free.
Saturday morning cartoon, wasn't it?
They absolutely came at it as this is just continuing Star Trek. All the actors came back.
That's
everything. Cool. It's just obviously they could do it bigger because it's animated, so they didn't have to be constricted by TV budget. But yeah, I mean, I think it's really good. I mean, there's a few episodes you're like, It's going to be interesting because they're only like 20 minutes. So I don't know if you guys are going to do 1 or 2 per episode or not.
I don't know.
I know you
PJ
don't.
is the one who makes all the plans. He's the one who decides everything.
I know.
I don't think I've ever seen the animated series.
It's good. It's okay. I mean, it's very basic.
I've heard of it. I've seen, I've seen screenshots and stuff. But I don't think I've ever.
It's very basic.
We've all seen the meme of whatever character it is going.
Oh my!
There's a character that has like an extremely non-expressive face.
Yeah,
And they kind
that's
of
all of them in the animated show, to be fair. But that's Anyway, diverge. This episode, right?
Yeah. Well, this one.
Yeah. This
Second
that the
Deep
melancholy
Space Nine.
stroll thingy.
What, the late night melancholy stroll on the promenade?
That's the one.
Ah.
Yeah.
That's what the episode's about, basically.
Yeah.
I was going to say, do we actually have anything to say about this episode more? Because was there anything?
No,
I will say one thing, which I think is a great shame.
Yes.
Purely for Elliot's benefit, it's a great shame for Elliot, is that Kira only appears really in one scene. I mean, she's there in the background, but you only get one scene where they're doing the initial thing, and she's being all very polite and friendly and obviously diplomatic, and she's like, can I go? And he's like, no, you cannot.
No, she's in two scenes. Because she's at the beginning as well, near the beginning or after he's first met Fenner, and he comes onto the bridge, and for the first time
there.
in
Does she say anything
8,000 years or something, he doesn't order a Ractagino. He orders some kind of tea with I don't know,
whipped cream or something,
cum or something in it. I can't remember what he asked for, but it's just, and it's just again, it's words that we don't need, and her response. Her reaction to it is ridiculous as well. It's like
computer, one cup tea.
Or people don't react like you don't get angry just because your commanding officer comes in and doesn't order the coffee that he usually orders, and has a smile on his face and a spring in his step for the first time.
This is what I've been dealing with in Enterprise in a lot of time. People acting not how a human would act for the sake of the script to continue.
Yeah, and I know she's not a human; she's a Bajoran, but essentially, they are presented as our reference point as viewers is often the sympathetic view with them because they've been occupied by not them personally, been occupied by the Cardassians, their planet. So a lot of it is a lot of it we're expected to sort of see things from their perspective, and her Kira's reaction to Cisco being in a good mood that morning without having had a coffee is just, I don't know. It's I thought this is pointless. It's you're making an issue out of something specifically because you want to make an issue out of it. And you really
didn't like this episode, did you?
It serves no purpose. No, I didn't. Too many flipping writers.
Okay,
three writers, and they've got about 18 names between them.
I gotta say,
that's a bad sign to start with. Okay?
Let me give you an advertisement for Enterprise. Imagine the episode you just watched and watching it every episode for 4 seasons. That's what Enterprise was.
Well, I have the utmost respect for them because I could not. I was
like you. I was making legitimate complaints that were intelligent at first, and then 2.5 series in, I was like, I don't know, and I don't care. It's just bad.
I mean, I've just realized. It's just occurred to me.
He's not even overselling this.
The fact that the teleplay was by people with like 2 or 3 names each is probably why everything that they
too many names, too many writers
is a something of something. So it's an Andorian tuba teleplay by Andorian tuba root. It's it's they use too many names for themselves. So they give everything else too many names as well. It's just...
Tim, I've got to say, I think you should start recording these in the evening more often because it's so much more funny when we're all tired.
Jeremy, did you make sure that the title of the captain's meal is hyphenated? Yes, I made sure that it's hyphenated.
Okay, then.
Okay, thank God.
Yes.
He's a hyphen, damn it.
Love it.
Benjamin,
love it.
You're not going to leave that... You're not going to let that last piece of Robert Hewitt Wolfe go to waste, are you?
This is the most I've heard Elliot laugh watching Star Trek.
Well, it's exactly what happens. People say something that you wouldn't fucking say.
It's
and
true.
You just have to go with it.
It's true.
Yeah.
But my whole point about Kira, right, was before Tim went on his rant. Tim the Rant, I think we're going to start calling him. But fun. What was my point? Shit.
Timber rant and butt fun. That's not. I don't want that.
That's a different rant. They haven't had the butt fun rant yet.
I am saying nothing with that.
This is
I'm not
not
touching that comment at all.
This is not the chatcast I signed up for.
That's what you
Sorry,
think.
viewer.
I slipped it in gently then, so you didn't know about it.
No, I knew about it. I spotted it straight away.
So, Kira, my whole point was, unfortunately, Eliot did not get to experience how amazing the Nar Visitor is, because she didn't really have much to do in this episode, which is a great shame.
But what she did do, certainly in that second scene where she tried to get away, she did it very well.
She did.
Bit she did. Well, yeah, the first scene was just...
Why, what happened in the first scene again with her?
I don't want to have to go through that again.
I think.
Do you know what the tea was that he ordered? I mean, these are just words.
It was just herbal tea. It wasn't anything particularly fancy.
It had some strange alien name to it.
Oh, I might have fallen asleep by then. I can't remember.
Yeah, so it would have been. Yeah, just. I can't. I can't even come up with a stupid name.
The only species other than Vulcan that I've had flung into my brain like a ping pong ball over and over is Andorian. It's literally the only thing that's stuck. Oh no, Tellarites as well.
Oh yes.
For some reason, Tellarites.
Oh yeah,
the argumentative Tellarites.
Yeah.
Tellarite tea.
Could have been. Yeah, could have been Tellaritian tea.
It makes them all sound like they're on their gap year. Like, I'm drinking Bajoran tea today. Oh, okay. Did you have the Andorian sausage?
Did you have some Cardassian panar? That's actually a thing too.
Cardassian caviar.
So, can you imagine going into your kitchen and just the thought processes going through your brain? I'm going to have some, and then listing off a title for the bread that you're going to remove from the rough cut multi-seed. I fancy a slice of rough cut multi-seeded wheat germ bread from Paris.
Loaf of bread, then. Oh, that'll do.
Exactly. Just yeah.
So,
I'll have some Coventry rough cut marmalade spread on my Penzance butter on the for God's sake.
So yeah.
Normal people don't have these thought processes.
This is great. The podcast has gone completely off the rails. Love it.
Yeah. I'm just struggling to think of any criticism I've not made in the past 3 years. It's really difficult. That's specifically relating to Tim's comment of that's not how people think. These are not the thought processes people have, because that happens so many times in Enterprise. And I never quite worded it like that, but I got on that a lot of times.
It does tend to happen a bit in this in Quark's bar. That he'll come up with he'll offer a drink, but it tends to be acceptable there because it's kind of associated with that establishment.
Well, yeah, because they're definitely going in there to buy something exotic.
Exotic, exactly.
Right.
So, but yeah, it's when that extends over into the mundane that it becomes meaningless.
Agreed.
So, do we have anything else to say about this episode? Do we have any more rants? I think probably more accurate.
No, I just really, really hope that he's not going to go for a melancholy late night stroll along the promenade on the 5th anniversary of his wife's death.
Well, only time will tell.
I hope they don't make an episode out of it.
Well, I will tell you this, Tim. You remember how amazingly cast Jennifer was in this pilot and the amazing chemistry she and Avery Brooks had, yes?
Yes.
Obviously, I'm saying this sarcastically because they had no chemistry at all. She was fucking awful. Well, the good news is she does come back.
Ooh.
Obviously, in a sci-fi kind of, and yeah, she doesn't
Lovely.
get any fucking better. Talking about her on an anniversary, that's the best you get. With
Right.
it's a shame because
it sounds like Kruger Daniels.
Oh gosh, yes, you love that character. And again, Tim, I got to say, you really should listen to the podcast. Don't worry about the episodes they're talking about because Pat goes scene by scene through them all. I keep saying Pat; it sounds so wrong. Patrick, I don't know why I keip saying that.
Pat.
Well,
Pat today.
See, that's what Eliot said yesterday or the other day. What was my point? Oh yeah,
he goes to the episode scene by scene.
He does. So they talk about every scene, so you don't need to watch the episodes because you still know. But the podcast is I can't wait till these guys get to DS9. I mean, granted, it's going to be like in about
a while,
13 years or something.
Particularly at the moment, because me lovely brother has had baby now.
He's had baby.
So he's got a lot of his time, and we're actually releasing the episodes bi-weekly as opposed to what we used to do as weekly. So that may again change in the future, and we'll go back to weekly hopefully. But it's very
when
much
is the next one coming up? Because I believe it's very soon, right?
It's fairly soon. Yeah, we're on a bit of a hiatus because we just finished Enterprise. So having a 4-week break before releasing something else, and also to give us some time to record some stuff.
Yeah.
As we've recorded a couple of short treks, and we've recorded The Cage, the original series pilot. So
from 1964.
Honestly, yeah, they were all. That was really fun episode. It was good. And then we'll be
it was
moving
a
on
refreshing
to
change, wasn't it, after Enterprise?
Oh, very
That's
much.
That's one
so.
I have watched.
Yeah, very much so.
I remember it was shown on BBC Two in the early 90s.
Yeah.
And I videoed it, and so I don't know that I watched it then, but I just out of interest I watched it because I remember seeing years before where they'd hacked it up and turned it into the 2-parter with Captain Pike in his little Davros chair.
Right.
Which you get to do The Cage all over again, Elliot. I was going to say soon, but obviously in a few years. So that'd be good for you.
So yeah, new episodes of Measure of the Fan coming fairly soon, and I'll get back to my probably dissing Star Trek. I'm not gonna lie, it's such an easy thing for me to fall into now.
Well, next year or next season. Well, it's going to be next year because we're in October, so obviously next year, whichever way you look at it, we will bring you back for season 3, and I will deliberately. I mean, if it's as fun as this, it's going to be an episode that's like one of the best episodes. So we don't have a lot to say about it. Elliot will have a lot to say because he'd be like, "Oh my god, this was so good." Hopefully.
Oh, it's totally up to you, man.
Hopefully,
it's totally up to you. The safest.
I might pick the worst of the season just for fun. Actually,
the safest route is to pick the bad episode, right? It's my comfort zone at this point.
Yes, it is.
So that's the safe pick. But yeah, if you want to go crazy and do an experiment, choose a good episode and see if I like it, and see if it'll work without having seen the rest of DS9 as well.
Maybe I'll pick one that's because it. Ooh. There's another mid-season bit where it's a big, as it were, game changer. Now, there's a phrase overused. And it's a 2-part episode, so I might deliberately just do part 1 of it for you. That actually ends on a cliffhanger. A legit cliffhanger that you will be actually interested in. Because with Enterprise's cliffhangers, you're like, do I have to watch the next episode?
I have to find out I have to find out the resolution to this? Oh,
is there one? Yeah, but this one would be like, I guess I'll find out in a few years then.
Fair enough.
I like the idea of that.
No, yeah, please. I'd be very, very
After
happy
the
and excited to come back on.
Okay, then. Yeah. Put in probable cause. Whichever. One of the two. Excellent. We're doing that. So, nothing left to say. Oops,
No, it's fine. I'm really pleased to have somebody else who's got a similar journey that they're going on, Tim. I wasn't aware that you were quite as a newbie as I am.
Well, it's funny, both our guests so far have been like Madison. The only Star Trek she's watched, well, DS9, were the episodes we got her to watch. Although she did check a few out afterwards, but doing the first one because she's kind of curious. So it seems to be a pattern that we're trying to pick, not deliberately, but so far we just pick people who aren't familiar with DS9. Although we've got a few, like obviously your brother's coming up, so that's going to be an interesting one because he knows Star Trek easily as well as I do. So poor Tim.
Yeah, you will feel what it's like for me to sit between PJ and Matt, essentially. Then, which is the average of the podcast.
Yes.
I don't know if we keep recording the videos like we have been recently doing in Measure of a Fan, there's going to be a lot of people who realize how often I just like pick at my nails. Like not involved in the conversation for the moment.
Well, you may have seen the comment I made on Patreon about how much more engaging and pleasant your demeanor was, and I think because obviously yours I just expected you to be sitting there going like this,
because all I do is complain. Yeah.
But no, I was like, oh, he smiles and laughs a lot. So you don't get that part on the podcast normally. It's
Didn't we have a comment early on saying it was? I think it was the comment was made to you saying, "Oh, your friend on the podcast he doesn't look very interested when you're talking."
Yeah, mate, I watched
it.
Because I'm the kind of guy who's happily play it back to my friends. Because I don't care if I'm used to hearing and seeing myself nowadays. That does sound a bit big-headed, but whereas Tim's like, oh, I'm not rewatching that back. But he watched it, and he literally said to me, he's like, your friend doesn't seem very interested in what you've got to say. I'm like, I'm not, but okay. So I told you that. And I was told from him, it's like, you always interrupting him, I'm talking over him. So I'm like, trying not to.
So now every time he speaks, I'm always like, oh, yeah.
He does. He's there. He's like, yeah. Like, remember when I told you that the first introduction you did afterwards, you did like a really well, hello everybody, and I'm like, what are you doing?
Fine,
we take feedback well.
It's fine. I'm sure I've had some feedback that I've just never addressed.
See, I was going to cut some bits out of this, but I think I'm just going to leave the whole damn thing up because it's too funny to cut the good stuff out, frankly. Brilliant. So, I think we pretty much talked out about this particular episode, eh?
Sure.
Here we are.
I think we are, yes.
Okay. Well, before Tim does the outro set, Eliot, it has been great having you here. It's been so different.
And thank you, Eliot, for not holding the microphone by your arse and breaking wind.
I mean, you don't know, Tim. I'm sorry, you don't know that. It's gone off screen. And when it's off screen, you just don't know where it is.
Well, no, we hadn't heard or smelt anything, so he's just assumed,
Well,
and here it is, back from the journey. Smells the same, so take from that what you will.
This is good. Unfortunately, viewer, my attempts to try and dupe Eliot into sharting himself have failed.
Oh God, this is what I imagine doing a podcast while drunk would be.
We want to do that one day.
Apparently, we don't need to get drunk to do this. Wow.
Yeah, it's a genuine plan, I think, for Measure of a Fan one day to watch something drunk.
Yeah, I think we should do that one on an anniversary or something. We should do right, let's get hammered. Not hammered because
you got to make it a worthy occasion. It's got to be justified.
Yeah. And obviously,
perhaps, perhaps actually the 4th anniversary of Sister's wife's death.
Yeah. Yeah.
As we take a melancholy stroll along the promenade.
On the 5th anniversary, we'll get drunk in honour of Jennifer. Or not. Oh man!
Yes.
Wow! But Elliot,
no, thank you for having me on. It's been so much fun.
It's been
I'll
brilliant.
happily do it.
Oh, you will. Wow! Fantastic. So, Tim,
right.
do the honours.
I've got to do some sort of formal outro, have I?
Oh yeah.
Okay.
Eliot, obviously, send me your socials and whatnots, and I'll add them in the description below.
Okay.
because, might as well advertise it.
Yeah, sure. I mean, while I'm here, I'll just say I have a YouTube channel, Eliot Red, ELIOT RED. I upload music. That's all. That's all I really have. I don't do Instagram or any of that sort of social media stuff, but I have a YouTube channel that I upload some music to. That's all.
Link will be below.
Indeed. Thank you, Elliot. And thank you again, viewer, listener, for joining us on what has been obviously a very tawdry affair for all of us. And we should
melancholy stroll.
Again, as we took our melancholy late night stroll along the promenade to celebrate the 4th anniversary of Cisco's wife's death. God bless her. I've been Tim Teal for some reason, and Andy has been. What colour were you? Anchovy.
Andy Amaranth, which apparently is a deep purple.
Oh, okay. Oh, it even says on the screen. I see. Yes.
It does. I put it on there so you could read it, but you obviously didn't notice it.
Somehow
I
related
didn't notice
to
it until then. It's too late then. So
somehow related to amethyst, I think, which is a purple stone. Isn't it?
That would make sense. Yeah.
Mm.
Didn't occur, but yeah, that would make perfect sense.
Thank you. Hey, yeah, pearl of wisdom. Thank you.
I like colours.
Amaranth of wisdom.
Indeed. So yes, we have been the Replimat, and you've been enjoying us.
Yeah.
As Andy said earlier, you can find us in all the usual places. And if you're not sure where to look, Andy will add them in the comments beneath the video.
I might actually add them in the descriptions instead, though.
Or the descriptions, yes. If you have any feedback for us, please do.
Please.
Comment. Send us, preferably not abuse, but perhaps just sort of, want an appreciation. Don't touch us. No, go. You can touch the measure of a fan, guys, if you want, because that's obviously what Elliot's after. But yeah, please don't touch us. But you can write to us. That's nice.
Oh my word!
And just don't post things through letterboxes and stuff as well, because that's obviously.
Well, if you do, they might smell like Elliot's and like microphones. So
Well, I said it smells the same.
That's true. That is true.
But you don't know what it smelled like before.
That is also true.
No, I'm not sure we wish to know that either. Kindly leave the stage. So yeah, we'll be back again next week for Star Trek Deep Space Nine Season 2, Episode 10. So we're into double figures. What's next week's episode called, Andy?
Oh, I don't know.
Well, look it up, you bugger.
I do. I think it might be the alternate, but let me just check. You can come back now, Elliot. You scared him off, Tim.
Yeah, it appears so.
You told him to leave the stage, so he did. He's going to come back with whiskey or something now. Next week, hello, there he is.
No, it was all good.
Did you have a nice sleep?
Yeah, it was lovely.
Cool. Next week is Sanctuary.
Sanctuary.
And the blurb in this book is a lot longer than the one on... Ooh, do you actually know what the blurb says for next week on Netflix?
No, I didn't know, because I didn't know the episode title, so I haven't looked it up. Okay. Sanctuary. I think we all need that after taking our melancholy late night stroll along the promenade on the 4th anniversary of Cisco's wife's death. I haven't a clue what that's going to be about. Sanctuary.
Elliot, what do you think it's going to be about?
I don't fucking care, Andy.
Love it.
I struggle to care when it's my job to on the podcast. Right now, I'm off duty, man.
I think as long as it's got nothing to do with Andorian tuber roots, I don't mind.
Well, you never know. They may be seeking sanctuary.
They may be.
They may be. Cool.
Yeah.
So that's next week then, yeah?
That's next week, yes. So, yes. Until then, I've been Tim.
I've been Andy.
I've been the guest.
Yes, you've been the guest.
I'd do it again too.
You nutter.
Uber noob, Eliot.
I've been Elliot. Bye, everybody. Thank you very much for having me on this wonderful chatcast.
It has been a pleasure for you to be on this
For me,
chatcast
yeah.
with us. Yes. Yes, indeed.
Something to do off evening, innit?
Exactly.
Okay, so until next week then. Bye-bye.
Bye, everyone.
Oh, gosh.